Well, good evening, everybody. It's Blair Nightingale here. We're going to give folks a couple of minutes to get in. It's time to rock and roll here on Market Monday. It is the final Market Monday for the year of 2023. I got a couple of things for you traders out there to wrap up the year. Let's finish well so we can start well, right? If we finish well in the season that we're in, we can start well in the season that we're going into, right? So certainly what I'm thinking about today, okay? So we got some people coming in. Remember, you can always chat us right here live on the webinar. If you're with us on Facebook or YouTube, either way, doesn't matter. You can reach out to us. Questions, comments, concerns, disagreements, whatever you want. Put it in the chat box. Let me know who you are, where you're from. We usually have people chiming in coast to coast, border to border, all over the place, sometimes all over the world, right here on Market Monday. So I'll pull up some charts here in just a minute. We'll dive in. It may be the last one of the year, but hey, the market rolls on, right? It marches forward. So we've got some things we need to look at to help you guys know what's coming up this week. We've had some real consolidation in the markets over the last few weeks, and we're starting to see that break out. What is causing that breakout? Well, we're actually getting some significant news. We've had a mix of data over the last few weeks. Remember, as investors, we're looking at the news for those macroeconomic trends. What do we project is happening in the long term? In the short term, for the traders, you're really using news as a gauge for volatility. For example, a lot of day traders won't trade a Fed day. Now, some will focus specifically on the Fed day. Why? Because for some, that volatility is something they want to try to take advantage of. For others, it's a sign that there's going to be probably, potentially, too much volatility. Now, that's a little bit different than what we look at in our swing trading positions, but the point being is that it really is a gauge of volatility. So this week, we've definitely got some news coming up that is going to be what I think, and I think a lot of people would agree, is the more significant news items that are really affecting the markets right now. And we're starting to see that move the markets ahead of time. We got a pretty decent day up. I'll pull up the chart in a second. The interesting thing will be, can the news support that move, right? Will they keep risk on, I should say, or will they risk off? Meaning, are they going to load into the market in anticipation? Well, today they did that, right? But we've got some news tomorrow morning that's going to be pretty important. And then, of course, we're going to have, well, I guess I'm trying not to give it away right now. For those of you who know where to look, you've been with us on Market Monday for a little while. You know what I'm talking about already. But before I dive into that, right, we've got Mark joining us here, joining from Iowa today. I imagine we're probably going to have some folks that are shifting around the country. I'm about to do that myself for the holiday season. We are warm and cozy here at home. We've got the tree up and everything, but we're going to be get the opportunity to spend some time with people we love. So that's really, really good. So Mark is joining us from Iowa today. Good to have you on here, Mark. For everybody else, first of all, and I mentioned this a little bit last week, but I'll say, for those of you, you're a first timer tonight, right here, December 11th, welcome. This is Market Monday. We're a community of people that come together to honor God and break down the confusing world of finance. Okay. That's what we do here. And that's what we do on Market Monday. Practically, I want to serve you week after week after week and just give you some terminology, some methodology. What is trading? How does it work? What is it not? And how can you begin to think through and navigate the week ahead? That's really what we want to do here. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. We're so glad to have you. It might be the last one of the year, but it's not the last one. We'll be back right here on YouTube in 2024. Bigger and better than ever. We're definitely making some big changes around Tradeway. It has been an explosive year for us over here. So we're very excited. And we're, of course, really, really honored to be able to do this with you guys as well. Now, that said, of course, we've got a lot of people on here. And you've been with me all year long, man. You guys are commenting in there. You're emailing. You're watching. Some of you by recording. Some of you are live quite often, if not every time. So thank you to all of you guys for coming on here, being on here with us throughout the year, learning, especially those of you who are really new to the markets and just learning to get a critical eye What kinds of things am I looking for? What kinds of questions should I be asking? If we're doing anything right here, the amount of time we need to spend just assessing the markets initially, it should shrink over time. Okay. No matter what the market condition is, doesn't mean we know the future, but it does mean we know the kinds of questions that we want to be asking, so that at least the answers that we're getting are quality answers to help us in our investing and our trading. It's never about knowing the future. It's about assessing the risks based on the information that we have. Janet coming out saying, hello, hi from Missouri, newbie here. See, perfect. That's exactly what we want to do. Janet, you've heard me say this a few times now. We're going to pull up a stock chart in just a second and break some of this down. But thank you so much for commenting. You're absolutely in the right spot. We are really good at helping people who are absolutely brand new understand what is possible in the stock market. Pastor Rick is with us from San Jose. I told you we were coast to coast, man. We got people from all over the place. So welcome to the program as well, Pastor Rick. Okay, now let's go ahead and pop this up on the screen here, because we're going to head over. We're going to look at the S&P 500. Then I'm going to give you some thoughts on closing out the year 2023. Okay. Some things that I think are going to be really important into 2024, and just some notes from some things that I am going to be doing in the first quarter of 2024. And it's something that you guys can consider as well as you're making plans for your first quarter. As thinking about being a trader, as a new trader, maybe a more experienced trader. Let's get on down to the SPX. All right. So we're kind of going to go to the year view here, right? So this was our year, guys. Okay. Now, what's interesting about this is you'll notice we kind of topped out a few times at the 2023 highs over the last week. Well, Friday, we finally busted out of that. Okay. The question was, are we going to hold it? Because as you can see in this channel here, that the market had been going back and forth quite a bit, very choppy. We followed through today. Okay. I'll shrink this down a little bit. We followed through today. So we actually broke out of that. We've got a new 2023 high. The Santa Claus rally, question mark. Okay. There is something in the stock market, of course, in December. Doesn't happen every year, doesn't have to happen, but there often is a big rally into December. And this has been deemed over the years the Santa Claus rally. Of course, we don't trade just based on the assumption that something like that is going to happen, although historically it certainly has happened in December, thus garnering the name. However, right now we've busted out of that, but there's two big things that are happening this week that we want to be aware of. Okay. In terms of the market tone, like the tide coming in or going out, right? There's just momentum coming in or momentum is going out. Is it up or is it down? It's not about predicting whether it's going to be up or down the next day. It's about assessing what the tone is so that we can look to flow with the river. The main way we do that technically for my traders out there is assessing what the pattern is on the S&P 500, if there is a pattern. Now we're looking at a breakout here. So that's something we're looking for, some momentum on the upside. I'll take you a little further out though, because if you go back to the highs here, we're looking at a full chart now. This is down here. If you see my date, this is the very beginning of 2022 right here. So you guys remember looking at those brokerage statements, right? Or those 401k statements, your IRA, whatever it was, from your maybe your advisor, maybe a self-directed account. And 2022 was ugly. Okay. We took a big drop in 2022. Could have been a lot worse, honestly. I think it was mitigated for sure, but we did see a drop. But you notice it tanked in this initial run down, and then it bounced. It made a recovery. This was the strongest recovery it made back up to about 4620 on the S&P 500 before taking an even bigger drop down. Bear markets tend to have some of the biggest runs up, okay? But that doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet, and this is a good example. However, that line now takes us right over. If you look on the right side of the chart, no, I zoomed in too quick. That is where we are now. Okay. We're coming right up, and I'm going to go in a little bit closer here so we can see. We're coming right up on that line. Okay. So I would be watching around 46.20 to 46.25 to see if there is any potential resistance when we come into that area on the S&P 500. Now, if the news we get tomorrow, which is CPI, inflation, we'll get pre-market, if it's strong enough, if they're happy enough about it, then I anticipate they're going to blast right through that. Okay. If it is a strong reading, meaning, I'm going to say that differently because that can be a little confusing. Strong in what Wall Street wants, meaning that inflation, CPI, is going down, or it's down more than they even expected. I would anticipate that we see a much more bullish run up in the market tomorrow. There's no guarantee of that, but we could probably see a bullish run upward tomorrow. And hopefully from on the back of that, see some continuation. The Fed comes out with their statement and policy decision on Wednesday. What are they doing with interest rates? Well, everybody believes they're going to hold interest rates where they are. Okay. But the big thing will be, what do they comment on? Where do they see us going in 2024? The Wall Street seems fairly optimistic that they're going to cut our interest rates next year. I have not heard that language from the Fed as of yet. Okay. So I would be looking for Powell to come out and actually reiterate that he's not ready to commit to that kind of aggression, for lack of a better word, in 2024. However, tomorrow morning will definitely inform at least part of what that statement is. So all that to say, for my traders out there, you want to buckle up because this is going to be a little bit more than we've seen in the last week or so, right? Because we're going to get these big news items back to back, and they're so intricately connected one to the other. So what you really want to remember is that as you're going out and you're looking at stocks, taking patterns, taking trends, you want to have your rules in place. Where are you buying it? Where are you selling it? Where are you stopping it out? That's the most basic trading plan we can have, something we teach more extensively in our Step 1 Start Your Journey if you've not learned the foundation of stock trading yet. We want to have those numbers in place. If we got in a trade and we didn't, it's a good time to do it, right? Because the market is closed. So it's a good time to do that. If we did do that, then you want to review that and know, okay, whatever volatility comes, in the end, it may not even end up being that crazy. There's no guarantee, but there is a likelihood based on the nature of this news that we're going to see that in the markets, that you want to stick to your plan. Okay, you want to stick to your plan, whatever happens. Remember, the news doesn't give us a prediction on the direction. It gives us a gauge of volatility. That's what we look at it for. So when we look at patterns, right, we've looked at this many times now. Now I've got a 3-year view on there. We don't need the 3-year view on a stock, like, for example, on Key. Now, this guy's just starting to wander down. So we're not really at a support level here, okay? But as we go through and we choose patterns, okay, GLD at the 50-day, oil and gas definitely dropping. I'll be interested to see if the financial sector can hold up in this zone right here where it's been in this channel for some time. It just popped above it today. S&P made some new highs, so just popped above it. We'll see if that can hold on there. But as I'm going through, I'm looking at patterns, support and resistance. I'm building trades. You can go in there and just know that you have your plan in place when news like this is coming forward. Just going to quickly check back here because I think maybe we've got some questions in here. We got Abraham. I know you, Abraham. Welcome to the broadcast. Abraham from California saying hi, right? Awesome. Adam joining us from Vegas, of course, just in Vegas, right? Just there. Beautiful. Had an awesome time with the folks out there. Been out there twice in the last month. So really grateful for you guys. I want to honor everybody here. John from Oroville, California. Love it. That's awesome. And then ML, I don't know if that's short, Pittsburgh, right? Went out to Pittsburgh, right? Got to teach a class out in Pittsburgh earlier this year. Okay, JOBY, setting up for a potential bullish breakout. So to my point, here's a good example. Why not? Let's go take a look at what's going on here. All right. Lower dollar stock, big run, right? Very volatile here, taking big runs, big sell-offs. So we'll want to be careful with that. You know, we've got these highs that came up back here earlier in the year. It was, what are we in here? January of 21, right? So some lows here were some highs here. That was big for the year. And we're coming up on that same level right here. Okay, we've popped above it, pulled back, tried, didn't do much. Here we go. We're on a weekly here. That's why. What am I doing, guys? Let's look at a 1 year daily. We could change the time frames on here. I'm using the Charts by Tradeway platform here. Okay. First thing I would do, come in, just start to give myself some context here. Okay. Let's pull this up like so. Okay. And then you had that. We'll pop this guy in right there. So we had a bit of a wedge going on here. Okay. You could even take that up just a tiny bit. And we're right on top of that, right? We've broken out, pulled back. We're back above that. Looking for a potential breakout. We'll see what happens there. There's certainly some upward pressure. Point being what? Have a plan. What's your plan? Okay. Where's your technical stop? What's the risk return on the trade? Based on what's happening this week, the level of volatility, how heavy are you going to go in your position? Do we have a plan that says, all right, this is a quarter, half, maybe full position size in any given time, and I can change between those depending on what's happening in the market, depending on the strategy I'm deploying, right? There are lots of factors to cover there that we do more extensively later, but these are the kinds of things that we have flexibility in when we're looking at doing something in the markets. Let's head on over, just check quickly. We don't want to forget the NASDAQ. You see the S&P get the breakout. Now, I mentioned this to some students last week. It's good to continue to look, a tech-heavy S&P, to look over at the NASDAQ as well. The point isn't that we just fixate on the S&P 500. It's a broad-based index. It's not the index with the most stocks in it. It's 500 large cap companies, 11 sectors of the economy. So it's a good broad index to look at, but it is tech heavy. And here we are looking at the NASDAQ, primarily looking at the tech sector. It comes into the 20-day, catches a pretty nice bounce off of here, and that tends to lift the S&P as well when tech is doing well. Because we noticed a couple of weeks ago when we were seeing some downside pressure, it's a lot of the tech stocks selling off. So remember, and I know I say this at the risk of sounding a little bit like a broken record, but there are 7 stocks in the S&P 500 that if you took them out of the index, the returns that we've seen this year on the S&P 500 are greatly reduced. At one point, it was almost break even, slightly above. It's a little bit higher than that because the index has gone up. However, all 7 of those stocks, talked about this on a previous episode, are tech stocks. So when you keep your eye on tech, it's not a bad way to gauge risk as well. There's different layers we can add to this. NASDAQ is a good one to come over and just check the chart. Oh, NASDAQ's at the 20-day. Do I really want to bet against anything here in this sector when it's at the 20-day? Maybe not, right? We did get some chop in there, but certainly we're getting some follow through now, and that's boosted the S&P. So right in here, same thing. I'm going to go out a little further. And let's take a look, right? We blasted through those highs. So on the NASDAQ, a little different here, right? We're already above this high here. We're already above this high here. So really, we're charging pretty darn close, okay? Pretty darn close to those major highs. See if we can get up there, right? So the market's definitely got some room to run here. Watch Tuesday morning before the market opens. It's going to be CPI. Wednesday, of course, is going to be that Fed meeting. One's going to be pre-market tomorrow. Fed is going to be in open market hours. It'll be on Wednesday afternoon. The FOMC meeting is going to come out. So you are able to check that out at that point. I'm just checking in on some different comments here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. We got Texas as well. Cannon is on with us. Appreciate you guys being on here. That's awesome. Actually, we've got a good sized crew. Now, something I wanted to talk about. We get to the end of the year, I've mentioned this to a few students. I want you grab your phone, grab a note on your phone, grab a piece of paper if you prefer to write that way, whatever it is. For those of you in our community, yeah, I'll quote one of our coaches, Blair. There's no Christian. I can't talk. I'm talking on a webinar and I'm unable to speak. That's kind of a problem. He said, Blair, there's no Christian stock trading. Wait a second. What does that mean? Because if you're in our community, you know that we want to do everything in a way that honors the Lord. I know that some people in the world probably might roll their eyes a little bit and say Christian stock trading. Well, that's exactly what this coach means. It's not that just because we're Christians, we have some super secret thing for stock trading. No, that's not true. Stock trading is stock trading. But we don't do anything apart from relationship, wisdom, dependency, grace, purpose. I could go on with the Lord. And that's true in any other area. So it's true in this area. And so in that sense, and I know what this other coach means, in that sense, well, there really is Christian stock trading, okay? But in one sense, of course, stock trading is stock trading, okay? But we don't do anything the way that we used to do it when we didn't know the Lord, because we know the Lord. And if we aren't leaning into him, why not? So in 2024, and I'll just say this briefly, because I want to talk specifically finishing 2023. In 2024, we're going to have a program that we're going to do. I can't give away all the details right now, and that's true. I really can't say everything right now, but we're going to do going to give you an opportunity to be a part of something that is, I think, really good for starting out the new year, specifically as traders correctly. Okay. It won't be at the very beginning of January, but a little further, and we'll make you aware of some of the other stuff, but make you aware of some of what it's going to look like. However, we are going to press into the Lord. We're going to press into skills. We're going to press into the nuts and bolts, but we're really going to press into the Spirit of God to help us in our journey in 2024. That said, you got a phone, you got a piece of paper. I want you to ask yourself, I want you to ask the Holy Spirit, all right? What is something that I need to leave behind in 2023? We're celebrating. I love this. Thanksgiving comes at the end of the year. We really get to look at the year and talk about, we don't have to wait for late November to be thankful. We don't have to wait until late November on a Thursday to tell our family and friends, ourselves, the Lord, what we're grateful for from the year, even if it was a very difficult year. It might have been a mixed bag for you. Hey, it may have been a breakout year for you. It might have been absolutely explosive in so many good ways. Oftentimes I find it's some of both. But what's one thing that you want to leave behind? You want to leave behind in 2023. Okay. What's something you need to leave behind? Now, we cannot control what we cannot control. Okay. We can fixate on what we cannot do. Okay. Or we can fixate on what we can do. We can fixate on the present, or we can fixate on the past. The difference between all of those is that there's ability and power in some of them, and then the other ones, there's nothing we can do. So we can't do what we can't do, but what we can leave behind. I'd be interested to know what comes up if you ask yourself that question. What comes up if you ask the Lord that question? Okay? Because it's imperative that we move into the new season, leaving behind that which we don't need anymore. And I'll say this in brief. I talked about this a little bit on a prayer meeting. I think it's appropriate to share here tonight as we close out the year. There's something that the enemy can plant in your field that you're going to want to uproot for the new year, and ask the Lord about that. But then there's also good things that can happen. Okay. I'm going to give you a trading example because I'm speaking about trading specifically tonight. Is there a mindset? Is there a habit? You know, I did some training with a pro bodybuilder some years ago. I've talked about this on here before. His name was Jay Cutler. He was a 4-time Mr. Olympia, and I got the honor to have him coach me for a little while. Okay, it was honestly, I had no business even doing it, but it was an amazing opportunity. And the point is that some of the most impactful things that he had me do that created the greatest momentum and results were very small actions, but sometimes those small actions required the bigger commitment from me because they seemed so inconsequential. It was kind of, if I'm being candid, kind of annoying that I even was like, okay, I got to do this thing. But if I do it, and I did, because I respected him so much, it radically changed my results. Now, that was along with other good habits, discipline, coaching, accountability, etc. The same thing we do at Tradeway. However, you might have some little things, man. Just some little things you notice in your trading. Maybe you're new tonight and you have some things that you're going, I just got some little things that are keeping me from getting started. Okay. It's keeping me from asking questions. It's keeping me from joining that step one, start your journey. Whatever it is, if it's a small thing, I like to say small hinges open big doors. Okay. And the point is that we can say, okay, that I'm leaving behind. That's one thing. It doesn't have to be 10. If you come up with 10, great. But one thing that you're going to leave behind. And remember, I read this actually in Mark chapter 2 this morning on the plane coming home. Old wine, new wine. Old wineskin, new wineskin. Jesus is teaching about covenants. But the principle there is to say, when the Lord is moving you into something new, it's a new season. When life moves, when the goal moves, when your desire moves, right? Whatever it is, there are some good things that came from God even in the last season that we'll need to move on from. I don't mean moving on from him. I don't necessarily mean people. I just mean sometimes the thing we hold on to the most is the thing that God gave us in the last season. It might be something that we need to mature in, we need to move on from, because he wants to give us something fresh, something new when we go in. Starting off 2024, I'm going to do some almost kind of a boot camp kind of a thing. It's a different name because Tradeway, actually, we have a boot camp already. Where we're going to build some habits, daily habits, week-to-week habits, okay, spiritually and financially. So that's something to look forward to, but I'd be interested one last time. What's something that you need to leave behind in 2023? Now, this might be in another area of your life. I don't believe that as traders, everything is so compartmentalized. You sit in the driver's seat of your trading account every day, and what happens in the rest of life is going to impact you in some way. We don't need to be perfect to be stock traders, but I think discipline in one area is discipline in this area, which, by the way, to Cannon's comment there on Jay Cutler, that's why I did that. I wanted to grow in discipline. Okay. So whatever it is for you, that's my challenge for you. End of 2023. Take a little bit of time. I believe it's Mark chapter 1, verse 35. And Jesus got up, went to lonely places and prayed. Maybe take a little bit of time to yourself with the Lord this holiday season when you can, and ask the Lord those kinds of questions. Okay. Cannon's got a question in here as well. Would you know when the trading summit will be? Cannon, if you send that over to support@tradeway.com, they'll be able to answer that for you tomorrow. You can also send me a direct message in the background there too, because Cannon's in one of our programs. I know that, along with a bunch of you other guys on here. So you can always reach out to me inside there. But support@tradeway.com for you and for my other friends on here. If anybody needs anything, if you got some questions for me, maybe something you'd like to look at in a future episode, you can always send that to support@tradeway.com, and we'll get that sent back to you, a reply, so that you know what we're doing, when we're doing it, get your questions answered, as it were. 34 people on here tonight live. We appreciate you guys. We know that most of you guys, you're busy, you got things going on, and you'll watch this on the recording. So to you and your families this year, thank you so much for an amazing, amazing community, amazing year here at Tradeway. You guys are Tradeway. Okay, there's some of us, and we've been through our program, and that's where we come from too. But really, it's all of you guys. And we're not going anywhere for December. We're still here. It'll just be the last Market Monday for this year. So for those of us who are pressing in and pressing on. Keep on going. Keep on doing it. It's going to be an exciting month in trading. They're not going to stop just because of this. And then in January, of course, we're going to pick it right back up. New and improved. Got some new things coming next year. So once again, appreciate you all. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your families this holiday season. A Merry Christmas to everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. All right. We'll see you in 24. Good night.